Hey, Astros fans, we're going to fix your face either with a grin or a scowl, depending on your attitude about this. When we first heard that Evan Drellich was available to talk to, I couldn't wait to have him on because this appears, and Jeff Passan tells us that this is the real story, the most fascinating team in baseball, and nobody can tell it better than Evan Drellich. He is here. Welcome on the show, Evan. Now, Evan was a fly on the wall with the Astros as he was a beat reporter with them back in the day. He's also been with the Red Sox and now with the Athletic covering national baseball all around, and we're lucky to have him here. Welcome on, Evan. First of all, congratulations on what is a wonderful book.
Thank you very much for having me, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
So when I first dove into it, first of all, the name Jeff Lunau certainly means a lot to a lot of different people. After you got to know him, you were around him during all that, and after all of this was done, when he was let go, what's your opinion of Jeff?
Very smart guy, could be very charming and personable when he wanted to be. There are kind of multiple sides to him. He was very bottom line focused. There was ego. He wanted attention for his own success. He wanted to be a disruptor. And one of the things he lacked was really touch. His ideas were very often sound. The implementation wasn't there. So at the end of the day, he ends up rubbing a lot of people the wrong way. And very early in the book, there's somebody who's talking about, there's a colleague of Jeff's, even before he gets into baseball. So this is turn of the century at petstore.com, where Jeff was a marketing executive. And the colleague noted that he was self-interested. A lot of people in tech in the Bay Area at that time were self-interested. But that resonated with me.
I think they were being kind.
Yeah.
Self-interested. Yeah. We're joined by Evan Drellich. Brand new book, Winning Fixes Everything. Astros fans, it's a must read.
Well, Evan, when did you sit down and when was the moment and when did you think, like, you know what, I want to write this book. I want it to be about this. How did this even come about?
Well, I covered the team and I had paid close attention to and had written about their management culture, at this point now, 9 years ago. There have been a bunch of scandals of smaller nature. I mean, one sent a Cardinals employee to federal prison, the Cardinals hacking scandal. I knew there were underlying issues in Houston, and I was well-sourced in Houston. The Astros were at the forefront of this post-Moneyball movement, kind of the flag bearers for analytics. And so, I saw the general sketch in my head. I knew that the question of how do we get to a point where you have an assistant general manager blowing up in the clubhouse fired? How do we get to the point where 3 managers in the sport lose their job and a general manager lose their job, and you have this massive cheating scandal? It wasn't as simple as, oh, this is just bad luck, and it just happened to happen to the Astros twice.
Evan, is it the thing we've been arguing about the entire time here in San Antonio, because we are pretty much an Astros town? Is it really cheating?
What the Astros were doing at home in 2017 was entirely off the field of play, right? They set up a camera in center field. They had it fed to a television monitor in the tunnel just behind the dugout. And then they could communicate on any pitch, right? And this is the famous part where they're banging on the garbage can, that. I mean, when we watch sports, I think we're watching it for the sense that people on the field are competing. And yes, they still had to swing the bat. But the fact that from a position off the field, they could be told with the help of electronics what was coming on any pitch at home. I think that's striking. I'll give you a little example. Ken Rosenthal and I at The Athletic did the story, right? We broke the story in 2019.
Right.
John Boyd puts together a video right afterwards. I remember watching one of those clips. There's this 0-2 pitch. I think it was a curveball to Bregman. And he just belts it to left, right? Crushes a home run. And it's very visceral for me, and maybe for others. When you sit there and watch, you go, oh, holy crap, he knew what was coming. What is what I'm watching real? And so, I understand the question. Baseball has encouraged forms of certainly sign stealing with one's own eyes. Yeah, when you get electronics involved off the field, I think it's dirty.
We are joined by Evan Drellich. He's got a brand new book that really, for Astros fans, this is not a takedown of the Astros. It really isn't. And it's not just about the Astros. This is more about the state of the game in the post-Moneyball era and how things can go awry with great minds. And I think everybody can agree that everybody down in Houston, smart guys, every one of them, they did the right things that just got a little bit out of whack. And that kind of leads the next question for those Astros supporters. Everybody out there going, well, other guys were doing it too. We just got caught. What's your response to that?
Yeah, it's a somewhat complicated question. It is a fact that there were other teams that were doing some form of electronic sign stealing. So we know what I just described what the Astros are doing at home. On the road in 17, and then this continued into 18. They would have somebody in the video room decode the signs. They'd get that information to the dugout and then give it to a runner. So if the runner gets on second base, he knows exactly what the catcher's code is, right? So it's still the same kind of cheating, but you can only use it when a runner's on base. And ultimately, you still have that player on the field who's kind of the final relay part of it. The Dodgers, in my book, I report, were doing that in 2017. The Yankees and the Red Sox were both fined by Major League Baseball for that. The Red Sox were then again caught doing that in 2018, a year they won the World Series.
So they just did it the best.
You can stand there and say again?
I said the Astros just did it the best.
Yeah, and this is where the conversation gets interesting. In general, people look at what the Astros did, and I would agree, as considerably more egregious than those other schemes. There's another reporter I work with, a guy named Andy McCullough. He was talking to somebody, in the industry recently, and they put it as the Astros broke the Geneva Convention. It was, a step or multiple steps beyond what some of these other veteran contending teams were doing. And, in the real world, you commit a crime. You can't sit there and go, well, that guy did it too. Okay, but you still did it.
Yes. Evan, have you heard from any players from that team? And if so, what has been their reaction?
From the 2017 Astros?
Yes.
Not since the book has come out. There's a part of the book that's it's quick, but it's interesting. Right after Manfred punishes them, spring training of 2020, the players union visits every team every year. And so they came to West Palm and met with the Astros. And the Astros were livid with everybody. They felt singled out. They felt, some of them were getting threats. They felt hung out to dry. And so, yeah, look, the Astros, Dallas Keuchel's talked about it on the record. And certainly they all often point to the sense that other people were doing it. But you know what? There's also some contrition. You hear Altuve and Correa and people say this was wrong. Hinch says this was wrong. Cora says this was wrong. But it's messy, right? This isn't tidy. It's not like this clean break from kind of the scarlet letter that follows.
Evan, in Astro fans' mind, this title this past year kind of erases 2017. But in my mind, I'm like, that still happened. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean, this goes to the title of the book, right?
Right.
Does winning fix everything? I think that is a cliche that's been used for a very long time. I think in a lot of cases it is true, and yet in the case of the Astros are kind of the great example where, yeah, they won the title in 2017, and yet the conversation goes beyond that. That does not end the conversation. So here's what I'd say about the 2022 Astros and the Astros in general. They've always been good under Jeff Luhnow and now to the second successor and Dana Brown at building rosters. They were always good at that. What they weren't good at was the culture that came with it, how they treated people, how they treated players. The book is full of an explanation of what the environment was, right? And so I can't sit here and tell you today, has Jim Crane fixed his culture just because he won a World Series? And, people got to ask themselves, is the result the only thing that matters or should matter?
There you go. And that's the crux of what is a wonderful book. Winning Fixes Everything. And I want to get into the cultures inside the locker room that Luhnow brought and the Cardinals ideas. And you brought up that, Luhnow came from an environment where there had been some cheating going on. What was the moment where they went from maybe we've got a good roster, but if we could suddenly tip a pitch here and there, we'll take that next step. Was there a moment? Was there a culture? Was there a person that said, hey, I got an idea?
It was a combination of a couple things. So going at the end of 2016, one of the staffers at the Astros, a guy named Derek Pagoe, he puts together this Excel spreadsheet. It's called Code Breaker. It's not that advanced. It's basically something where you put in, okay, when the catcher puts down a 1, that's a fastball. You start tracking enough of those, you can pretty quickly figure out, all right, so if this guy puts down a 2, 80% of the time it's a curveball.
Right.
So they're starting to use this more as advanced scouting. But going into 17, they're deciding, all right, we're going to try to use this in game. And then they start doing that, but very quickly, if not really right at the start of the season. They feel like it's not doing enough. And they know that other teams are doing this. Carlos Beltran had been with the Yankees, comes over to the Astros. And they want a more effective system. They want to cheat better than anybody else. And so they say, all right, we're putting up this camera in center field, and we're going to hang this monitor in the tunnel, and we're going to move to a more robust system. And it was more robust, and they paid for it.
And I think, another thing that's lost in this, Evan, is I remember the Sports Illustrated cover like 3 or 4 years prior to the Astros even getting to the World Series. This team was predicted to be this good years before they were. And then you couple that with what went on, and it's like, yeah, of course they won.
Yeah, the town. I mean, this is kind of the sad thing about the whole scandal, or one of the many sad things, is that they were a talented baseball team. There were good things going on in the front office in terms of how you build a roster, and the injury, the reputational damage, the fact that you and I are having this conversation, it's self-inflicted, right? The Astros did this to themselves.
It reads like a spy novel. It really it reads like there's subterfuge, and everybody's got a differing idea of how to get where they want to go. That's fueled by this data-driven truth that so many of these guys feel like the numbers tell us, and it took us to that next step. Is this book a tragedy?
I think to some extent, yeah. I don't want to give it away, but
yeah,
whatever. I found the end of the book to be kind of poignant. You've got this guy who worked for the Astros for 34 years, good soldier, did everything that they asked, and he gets fired. Luno doesn't. This is like 2 months before Luno gets fired. They decide to fire him because they think his usefulness is expired, and Luno doesn't do it himself. The guy was making, after 34 years at the organization, $80,000, and today he sells Ford cars and trucks in Florida, right? $80,000. You think that's a lot of money that you had to put this guy out on the street after what he did for 34 years? You know what I mean? It's just, they did not treat people well, and that moves me. I don't know if it moves other people, but it moves me.
Evan, do you feel like, and it's two different sports and kind of two different things, but I feel like the Astros took even more heat than the Patriots for their quote unquote Spygate and Goodell burning the tapes. Do you feel the same way?
Well, it's more recent, the Astros.
Right.
I think Spygate there was more. I mean, the Astros were like definitive. You cheated, it's done, right? Whereas there was a lot of back and forth in Spygate. Well, did it really happen? Brady destroys the phone. Deflategate and Spygate, right? Yeah. But, I had a quote in 2018 that from a rival executive said that, the Astros are Patriots of baseball.
See,
I think it's a little more clear cut in the case of the Astros. I have no doubt the Patriots were up to some no good. I think that's established. But,
baseball fans, this is spectacular. Go get the book. Winning Fixes Everything. You can find it everywhere. Your bookstore, Amazon. Go get it. How baseball's brightest minds created sports' biggest mess. And this, I believe, will go down as the definitive piece on what really occurred without the emotion involved. Because I do think, Evan, you brought up a sense of person, because it felt like you were in the room for so much of this, and it really did translate well. Congratulations on an outstanding work.
No, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Evan
Great job,
Drellich.
Evan.
Go check the book out. Winning Fixes Everything, Stros fans. You might not like it, but you'll finish the book much more involved and understanding of the environments there. Thank you so much for stopping by, Evan. Good luck on your future endeavors. We can't wait to read your stuff when the season does begin.
Yes, we'll catch you again. Thank you.
Evan Drellich right here.